Afternoon, welcome to the marketplace. My name is Darrell Kwao, in for Emmanuel Abuajiri. Welcome back to the marketplace with me, Darrell Kwao. We begin with fuel prices, and the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers has expressed fear that transport operators could be working to increase fares in the coming days. Some major oil marketing companies have increased petrol and diesel prices by 3% a litre following the application of the revised energy sector levies. There's more in this report.
Some major oil marketing companies have increased petrol and diesel prices by 3% per litre. This has resulted in a gallon being sold at 24 cedis 21 pesos. The reviews are in line with the increase in the energy sector levies on the price build-up and the price build-up on the various petroleum products. But the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, tells Joy Business discussions have come far. It is not clear for now what the basis of this planned increase in fares is.
Strait of Hormuz has an issue if the oil tankers are not able to move, right? And world market prices surge. The Ghanaian is asked to pay for it directly. If the cedi loses value due to overwhelming or large imports, right? The cedi-dollar relationship would affect fuel pump prices directly. If government also wakes up and say, I need more money, and I come to slap more taxes, the Ghanaian would have to pay more for fuel. And so all three indicators work negatively against the Ghanaian. And we think that if we want to sustain this issue of deregulation or price deregulation in force or in play, we should be able to go through the price build-up and situate them properly. Anything other than this, I do not see how this trend or trajectory of fuel price increases will stop at any point. It looks as though we've set the vehicle on a slope and we are only allowing it to drag all of us. And it's not good enough.
One of the reasons of deregulation was to...
This is because under the current arrangement, the operators and drivers open negotiations only when fuel prices go up by more than 10% in the quarter. Or maybe those are working to increase. Or maybe those that are working to increase their prices are not necessarily members.
Well, apologies. Let's get an understanding on what goes into determining fuel prices and if any increase would be justified at this point. Transport consultant Cecil Gabra has been speaking to my colleague Charles Aite.
So the figure is just negligible. Let's think about 5% or so. And I mean, if you look at 5%, are you going to increase fuel 5%, which is wrong, right? What about the other factors, other variables that we've just mentioned that makes the transport system work? Are you looking at it to say because fuel is going to 5%, you should increase it to 5%? No. It's a small figure, and you don't look at it. I feel it's now time for us to look at certain things in the country, because if the cost of crude oil goes up, what really means is that it is really going to affect the market in terms of aviation, just name it, under road transport, etc., etc. But then, what really matters at this point in time is that we need a system, we need a real calculation that at least, we'll say, once in a year, right, just as if the budget is read and being reviewed, that look, fuel cost is this, and therefore transport cost must be maybe 15% for the entire year. Looking at the variances, because it gets to a point in time where fuel prices also will drop, okay, and which is crude oil prices will drop and affect fuel prices definitely. And it may interest you to know that when such an occasion occurs where fuel prices, crude oil prices drop throughout the world, you come to Ghana alone, and the companies that matters will not reduce the cost of fueling for us. So I feel we've gotten to a point in time that we should rather look at percentages on increases, that maybe half year all transport costs must go for about 15%, and that should take care of all variances, whether crude oil prices will go up or low.
All accounting firms that supervise 7 banks that were collapsed by the Bank of Ghana are expected to be fined over the role played in the financial institutions folding up. This is one of the sanctions that the Institute of Chartered Accountants is expected to dish out to the firms this week. We've got details in the following Business Desk report.
Sources say the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana, the body in charge of regulating the accountancy profession, could make the announcement possibly on Tuesday or Wednesday. The release is likely to give details of how the actions and inactions of some firms might have contributed to the collapse of some troubled banks. Joy Business is learning that the fine could be huge, as the Institute plans to use it as a deterrent for other accounting firms. The sanctions are based on the recommendations of a disciplinary committee that was established last year to look into the roles that these firms played. The report of the committee, we understand, has been approved by the Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana. The troubled banks are UT, Royal, Capital, Sovereign, Premium, Heritage and Unibank. The Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana has, however, maintained that the said infractions did not lead to the collapse of the 7 banks. Based on the published results of these banks, Ernst & Young, that's EY, worked on UT Bank and Sovereign Bank. Deloitte audited the books of Unibank and Royal Bank. PFK Chartered Accountants worked on Capital Bank, whilst Morrison and Associates handled Beige Bank. Some industry watchers have argued that the banking sector cleanup could not be complete unless all other sectors directly connected are dealt with.
Now, prices of various commodities and foodstuff are expected to reduce in the coming weeks. The latest report by commodity trading firm Isoko also showed that prices reduced significantly last month. Let's get more details on this from content manager at Isoko, Francis Ejedanso, who joins me in the studio. So good news there, prices going down. Question, what goes into determining the prices, just for the education of our audience this afternoon?
Thank you for the question. So basically, it is what the market dictates that we record. And so what goes into it are the demand and supply issues on the market, and then sometimes some other variants, like what we will currently be seeing in the coming days, transport fares and all those things. Those are the things that goes into how much a trader will want to sell a good for.
Okay, so what is driving the reductions that we are seeing? I was told that we saw some other reduction the previous month. What is driving this?
Basically, we are in the period where most farmers within the southern sector are harvesting. And so they are able to meet the demand from the market. And so that is driving the prices of the commodities downwards.
Okay, so we are also looking at what this would, what impact this would have on the economy, on inflation as well. How is this benefiting our economy?
And so when you look at the whole impact of the price trends on the other sectors of the economy, you realize that when it comes to the food items within the inflation basket, we are expecting that will drop, which will have an overall impact on the other sectors of the economy, and then probably bring inflation down.
For how long is this going to be sustained? I'm wondering, this reduction we are seeing, do you think it's going to be there for quite a while?
So within the next 2 to 3 months, we expect that since the South will be harvesting, prices will continue to be declining. But we also anticipate that after that, then we will also see some movement within the prices moving up.
Yeah, and I guess people are wondering, in terms of reduction, what percentage are we seeing from previous months?
So when you take specific commodities, the prices, the percentages are going to vary. We are looking at between as low as less than a percentage points to as high as sometimes around 20-25 for some specific commodities.
And is that reflective when you go to the markets? Are people going to see that reflect in their purchases?
Yes, when you go to the market, you will be expected to see those things reflecting in the prices, and therefore also helping you to buy more if you so desire.
All right, thank you very much, Francis Ejedanso. So he's content manager with commodity trading firm, Isoko, giving us an update on the reduction in the prices of some foodstuff in our markets. We'll keep monitoring and see how that goes. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Now, the Ekunfi Fruits and Juices Factory in the Central Region is set to begin a major test run after a complete installation of their machines have been done. The factory is under the government's One District, One Factory initiative, which was started about 2 years ago. Chiefs in the Ekunfi traditional area, after a visit to the factory site, vowed to cultivate pineapple to support the factory. Richard Kujinakun has more in the following report.
The Ekunfi Fruit and Juices Factory, a private company under the One District, One Factory, has completed installation works. The factory is set to commence a full test run on all their lines, and that will be after it is connected to gas and water. The facility, according to the managers, will be the biggest fruit processing factory in the whole of West Africa, with the capacity to produce 10 tons of fruit per hour. Frederick Obinakwa is the lead operational manager of the factory.
Okay, so we set off to do a world-class fruit juice processing facility. And as we saw from our tour, we had concentrated a lot of our energies in developing our raw material base, because that was very important if we have to sustain this business. So what we saw this morning was all about raw material till we got back here into the factory to see what is going to happen to this raw material. What we are doing is to process at full capacity 10 tons of juice per hour. It is true, we have a lot of juice on the market, but you ask yourself, what kind of juice? What we are doing here, not talking about any other, but what we are doing here is raw juice. So what we are giving to the Ghanaian market is pure juice, no additives, no concentrates, but it is pure juice coming into the market. So we are bringing something to the market.
He assures the factory will deliver pure fruit juice different from what's on the market and won the support of Ghanaians.
And we know the good people of Ghana who support this, because as you mentioned, this is indigenous. The pineapple is grown here, we all know. We'll take you through the practices of growing the pineapple from the sucker sourcing, through planting, tendering to harvest, and then it comes here to process. This is pure, this is very original, and that is what will be presented to the market. So there are going to be multiples of companies relocating to Ekunfi, because this juice, the waste from the juice, will one go to do the biogas, will also do animal feed, and then fertilizer. Great.
National coordinator of the One District, One Factory, Gifty Ohini-Kunedu, was elated that at long last the much talked about factory the president cut short for about 2 years ago is near completion and ready to hit the markets.
Now, this is how far the Lord has taken us. As for assessment, I think a neutral person should do the assessment, not me, because I will say all the good things. But you are here, you've seen things for yourself, and you will give a better judgment than myself. But you remember that the sword was cut here. The first project was the sword was cut here, somewhere here, on this very place that we are. And so the expectation was so high. People said all kinds of things about this project, but today here we are with everything in place, all the machines and everything in place, and it's set for commissioning.
The paramount chief of Ekunfi traditional area, or therefore Achen the Seventh, who championed the visit to the factory to see at first hand what is being done there, gave a directive to all his chiefs. He has personally cultivated huge tract of land of pineapples. We should all put our shoulders to the wheel in this. It is the responsibility of every chief in this traditional area to have a pineapple farm. You fail to adhere to this directive at your own risk. I'm assuring you that by the next time you visit here, you should have about 55 farms here.
Traditional Council, I will ban you from coming to Traditional Council meetings. The next time you come here, bring 55 farms. Or your compulsory.
The managers of the factory have begun looking for engineers from Ghana to train and to man the factory. At the moment, the factory has commenced technology and knowledge transfer to the youth in the area to equip them for the task ahead. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
You're watching The Marketplace. Bloomberg is reporting that South Africa has been hit by an outbreak of xenophobic violence in its biggest city, attracting criticism from other African nations. In a week, political and business leaders from at least 28 countries gather in Cape Town. A spate of violence that broke out in suburbs of south of Johannesburg city centre on Sunday and spread to the central business district on Monday saw the destruction of more than 50 mainly foreign-owned shops and business premises. Cars and properties were torched and widespread looting took place. Take a look at this report. The attacks come ahead of the beginning of the African edition of the World Economic Forum in Cape Town on September 4 and before a state visit to South Africa by President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria, a country whose nationals have been affected next month. The violence echoes sporadic outbreaks of attacks, mainly targeting migrants from other African countries in some of South Africa's poorest areas.
We're just trying to take some cars outside because they are burning the shops everywhere. We don't even know the cause, but right now we just need to be safe and other things because other shops they closed. Like 5-6 shops is already shut down already.
But trust me, South Africa. You guys are sitting on a time bomb. Trust me. You're sitting on a time bomb. If foreigners leave this country, you guys are going to suffer.
Wait that battery, wait, things start red one.
See, I'm for you. The people working here, they are South Africans. I pay my tax. People gave me a license to open business.
This will never end because it's almost every less than every 6 months, you must hear an act like this. But the solution now is what we're looking for now is a solution. My company has like 10 staff. Among all these 10 staff, they are all South African. They are all South African. It's just me alone and my partner that is in Nigeria. Then what else do you guys want us to do? We create job. We came to create job for them. We're not like stealing job from them because we are creating. We have to go somewhere and right now it's dark already, but I know God will guide us to our destination for now.
In 2008, about 60 people were killed and over 50,000 fled from their homes, and in 2015, 7 people died in violence. Migrants are seen as competition for scarce jobs and government services. And that's a view from South Africa. Joining me in studio is Isaac Hubert Arthur. He's International Trade Policy Expert and Executive Director of the Africa Center for International Trade and Development. Thanks for your time this afternoon. So what is your reading of what is happening in South Africa? Of course, it's not the first time.
Yes, it's something that is unfortunate, but I think it still boils down to addressing basic domestic policy issues, because one thing about integration, regional integration, is that it offers the opportunity for people within a particular geographic area to move from one country to the other in search of business opportunities and possible, living there, So it shouldn't be a problem, but what is happening, I mean, South Africa has a peculiar situation at hand. I mean, we all know the socio-economic condition of South Africa, where you have a lot of SMEs owned by foreigners, who are from other African countries. There are a lot of people from Zambia. There are a lot of people from what's the name? From just Zimbabwe. Around Zimbabwe. Yeah, Zimbabwe dominates most of the foreign communities in South Africa. I mean, lots of them are.
Yeah, but I guess what is particularly worrying is you talk about regional integration at a time where there's talk about implementing the Continental Free Trade Agreement. When you see stuff like this, you become very worried. What kind of impact do you think it has on the progress made so far in trying to promote intra-Africa trade?
In our preliminary assessment of this whole AFCFTA, I mean, xenophobic attacks is one of the main things that we foresaw, because we need to educate our African people. If you look at how European Union achieved theirs, I mean, there's a lot of integration. Integration is not even just the economic aspect. A lot of cultural, social, and a whole lot of other aspects also were involved. So we need a lot of education. I mean, often most of these people who are doing that are not probably university graduates. They are not even, their level of education is not to any high level. Okay, and
but aren't they right in demanding that certain jobs are reserved for them? I'm saying this because here in Ghana, we've seen a similar confusion, although not to this proportion, where we have local retailers asking that the foreigners be kicked out. Don't people have the right to demand that, you know, certain jobs are left for us, even though we are trying to trade amongst ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, they have the right. It's the state's responsibility to protect its citizens. So whenever you sign on to foreign agreements, you know, any treaty, it's the responsibility lies on your government to provide protection to the local industry, to the local people. Make sure that your domestic policy takes care of their needs, protects them, and also enables them to be more competitive. So where I mean, like the AFCFTA, we are talking about it, but what measures are we putting in place to make sure that our SMEs, the micro businesses, gain some competitive advantage?
In fact, that was going to be my next question, whether or not these things have been factored into the framework for the Continental Free Trade Agreement to prevent such things as we are seeing this afternoon. Yeah, I mean, they have. I mean, they have. If you look at the free movement of persons, the protocol establishing free movement of persons, for instance, it's a protocol that actually is very sensitive. So you see a lot of, you know, countries not rushing to sign that particular, you know, protocol, because it's people are afraid of all these things happening. You know, you have people, foreigners taking up your local market. So, but it is always said in trade policy, we say that trade begins from home. Okay, so the continental one or the global one, once you are going to sign, you should do your homework very well. Okay, you have a national sovereignty. Even though you are signing on to an agreement, you still have some sovereignty. You have a policy space where you use to protect, you know, your domestic constituent, as long as it is not conflicting with any of the agreements that you have signed, you know. But how you maximize the use of your policy space is what often creates either problems for you or not. You know, I mean, with the case of Ghana, for instance, I strongly believe we have an issue of domestic trade policy. We need to look into it. We need to see how we can interpret some of our local laws to be, you know, consistent with some of the regional agreements that we have signed. Once we do that, we are able to factor in the demands of the local, you know, constituent. I mean, clearly, you don't go and sign an agreement, ratify it before you will want to come and raise awareness, you know, and sensitize your people. I mean, you've already signed it, you've already ratified it, it's in place, it's in force. So when I'm talking about domestic trade policy making, I'm talking about the processes involved. There has to be consultation. We have to increase the level of consultation, make sure that the relevant people, I mean, trade only doesn't matter to government, trade only doesn't matter to the business community. Trade also matters to your citizens, the youth, the people who are now coming up. They are afraid. It scares them when they see foreigners, you know, invading their territory. All right. Great points you're making there. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Isaac Hubert Arthur, he is an international trade policy expert and also executive director of the Africa Center for International Trade and Development, joining us this afternoon. Thanks very much for your time. That's it for The Marketplace. My name is Darryl Kwao. Thanks for watching.